Hello, hello. Welcome to the Imperfect Podcast, the podcast where we bring brilliant people to talk about their
Thank you.
imperfections. Hi, Jess.
Brilliant
How are
people.
you?
I am very well, thank you. Thank you, Ziad.
What's up?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. A little bit all over the place, but I'm good. And I'm so happy to be in this place where I talk with amazing people, and I feel the energy of all the people who are watching us and listening to us with me here. So very excited to be in this episode with you, Jess.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited to be here and honored. I like the concept.
Great, great. So, Jess, I know you through Lisa, with whom I recorded also an episode, and I was also her guest in one of her podcast
Me
episodes.
too.
And we've met a few weeks ago, and we really connected on a certain level. But I like to start my podcast with a very annoying question for my guests. Sorry for that, where I asked you, and I will ask you to present yourself in the way you would like to. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Who am I? So I'm Jess. I'm going to start with the thing I love. I love spicy food, which now that I'm back living in France is a bit challenging because besides mustard, it's not really spicy, the French food.
I ate in an Indian restaurant yesterday. It was spicy.
In France,
Yeah, in Paris.
they are rare. Keep the address. It's precious.
It's a good, very good one. I will give it to you.
Love that. So yeah, and that taste actually, I didn't used to love spicy food. I really grew that tolerance, if I can say it that way, and liking in Canada. So I was an expat for 10 years. And before that, I was in Dublin. And I really opened my horizons. And I always felt now I can put words into this weird feeling I was having in France, feeling a little bit always not fitting in, but not really right. And this is in Canada actually that I changed career completely from a documentalist, like information management, archive, digital library was a whole new concept at the time, to a coach. So I've been now a life and leadership coach for almost 10 years. Super excited about that. I feel so amazed that I was able to shift career like that. I would have never expected in a million years to be self-employed, work for myself, and doing this kind of work in helping people. So now I get to do this. I get to also train and supervise coaches, which is also super rewarding. And mostly I love to have conversation like people like you, like multicultural global citizens around the world, and helping them go back home in themselves, finding a place where no matter where they are, they belong here, and then they can lead a life that truly feels like them, not a life that they think they were supposed to fit in, which is why for me traveling was this discovery of freedom and hold on. That's not, I could be other more than that. And I was able through my traveling to meet people who inspired me, who encouraged me, who mentor me. And I want to help people with that now as well. And I love having conversation here as well about imperfection and inner struggle and how we can find meaning in our lives when we feel so sometimes inadequate and not belonging anywhere.
Just I have a problem. Your presentation was perfect. It's impossible. We cannot have a perfect introduction and an imperfect podcast. Please. Thank you so much. I really love what you've said, especially that it comes from the heart. We can feel that it comes from the heart, and mixing what we love and what we do is and helping other, it's an amazing opportunity. And traveling, I love that also. So I have a feeling this episode will be really rich. But let's get to the meat straight away. In this moment, just what is the thing or the imperfection that you are struggling the most with?
It's being, or the story I've been carrying for 43 years, of me being a bad CODA. So CODA stands for Child of Deaf Adult. So I grew up in, I would say, in a mini culture within the French culture. Both my parents are deaf. And so at home, I was, of course, very early on exposed to, which for me was my normal. But very quickly, as soon as you're at school, you understand, oh, my parents have different experiences that other parents. I have different experiences from other children. But this idea of being a CODA for the longest time, first of all, I did not recognize myself as one, even though it's a fact. I don't think how exactly this term came about. I think it's a bunch of people who decided, well, where do I fit in? And I don't know. I tried to do some research and it's not very clear how this title came about. But I never really felt like one because I had a certain idea of what a CODA is supposed to be like. For example, this idea of being in perfect CODA. We didn't really speak sign language at home. In a deaf communities, there's a lot of different sign languages. There's a French sign language, there's a British sign language, Australian, Japanese sign language. Like speaking languages, there's a lot of different ones. And we didn't really speak it at home. And if I can maybe offer a parallel is I understood a little bit more what was happening when I met people in Toronto, which that's why I chose that city to live in, Toronto, like one of the most multicultural, multi-diversity in the world. And I started to meet more like child of immigrants. And they were having a similar experience that at home, they were really disappointed for not speaking their parents' language. And so they felt a whole culture was cut off from them. But if they were having grandkids, then there was maybe a bit more exchange and the dynamic was changing. But often the children of immigrants' parents were having this experience of not necessarily really accessing or speaking the language fully, or feeling like it's a bastard version of it. And I was like, oh, that was a bit me. And I've been carrying this shame of not speaking proper sign language because I could also see my parents had, of course, like lots of friends, deaf friends in their community. And it's very, very common for a couple, either with one deaf person or two, to have hearing children. It's actually, if I understand, not that common to have deaf parents with deaf kids. So in my world, I was meeting a lot of other CODAs. There's no need for that. Other CODAs. I was quoting with my fingers. And they were all speaking perfect sign language. And I was so ashamed because when I was speaking with my cousins, because I also have like 3 cousins and an uncle and an aunt, I was feeling like stifled, could not really have deep conversation. And I was like, I got over the years angrier and angrier. And after my travels, and that's what I love this about the experience of having been an expat, really helped me to, first of all, get out of that box, forget about, I was feeling bad about this part of me. But when I've decided to come back to France, because now I'm living in France, I actually worked for it. I hired a coach, worked around what's going on. I feel I had to tie some loose hands in France. And one of that thing I discovered was like, I kept carrying that story that I was a terrible CODA. I was not a good daughter. I was not a good granddaughter. I was not maybe even a good sister, even though both my siblings are hearing. but this shame of like, I'm not speaking the language of my parents. I'm not really understanding their culture. And that's a shame. That's especially that my English got better. And I remember that day was a Saturday. I think it was a beautiful sunny day. And it just hit me like my English. So in a way, technically my third language was much better than the language technically I was born into. And I could feel the shame just dropped in my stomach and making me feel sick.
And what made this shame trigger you to do, or how did you use this shame in your daily life?
Yeah. There was two different stages. I think that shame first was really drove me to an amazing sense of self-awareness, because I was always very curious, and because I always wanted to understand what was going on since I didn't really fully speak my parents' language. My mom could read lips. She was forced at school to do that. My dad was the kind of relationship, I would say, with a lot of other people with their dads, not really involved in family life. He's doing his job. He's playing taxi. He's here if he needs us to feed us and shelter us, but not really to talk about politics or anything like that, or emotions. So very classic in a way. But we were getting by. We did have some signs and some languages, but that shame, I think, the different things got me super hyper aware, because I was always trying to be ahead of the game, trying to guess what was going on at home. You know, people don't really necessarily realize when you grow up, you can hear your parents in the background. You kind of have a sense of what's going on. But if your parents don't speak, and once they close the door, you have no idea. So I really developed a very, very acute sense of like super hyper vigilant, trying to anticipate what was going on. I think that shame drove me to be very angry. And I think that anger sometimes was not very good, but I think I'm learning to channel that as well in demanding what I want. So I think sometimes my anger turns into this ambition of like, that's not okay. And for example, that shame right now, I turn into a bit of a, if I can say that like that, a power. I've been a little anecdote. My dad never gave us a sign. You know, your parents, when often the dad goes to City Hall, write down the name to register you, right? He did that. My mom said, "This is the name of your daughter on paper." But in the deaf community, you are given a sign. He never gave us a sign, neither to me nor to my siblings. And believe me, Ziad, I've been giving him shit since I got back from France. Like it's been like 3 years. I'm like, you never gave me a sign. What the hell? That's not okay. So I think shame now is turning into like, I'm trying to use that as a way to be self-aware, to ask for what I want. But I've been working a lot also with a coach around realizing there was a lot of layers to that shame, and that turned against me. That self-awareness also, hyper self-awareness is great until you turning it against you to try to find all your faults. Because the shame was also telling me, it's your fault. It's your fault if at 6 years old you say no to your dad who wants to play tennis with your teacher. You don't really want to call your teacher when you're 6 years old and ask him, can you play tennis with my dad this weekend? I didn't want to do this. I hated my dad for asking me to do this. But at the time, there was no like cell phones or what stuff like that. And so I felt ashamed and guilty for wanting to say no.
So, in fact, the shame was started with this, and then it became a pattern that you used to, if I understand well, that you used to feel whenever there is a situation that is not like in different situations. But then, how did you turn this shame into a power, as you were mentioning? You mentioned maybe awareness, you worked with a coach, but can you give some tips, for example, for people who are feeling now this shame, that are starting to see that their reactions come from shame, but they still couldn't change? What
Yeah,
would be tips?
good tips. What helped me was the traveling, because it's really, really hard to to see different colors when all your life you've been told that's the color red, and you're like, okay. But once you turn around and you meet other people with other colors and tell you, oh, that's not red, that's much more complicated. That's maybe a pink, that's magenta, which is my favorite color now. And you're like, oh, so there's much more things to explore and to see, and meeting other perspectives, getting out of your context, I think helps realize, hold on, I'm not the one with the problem. It's the context that didn't allow me to flourish in a way that was helping me, or it allowed me to flourish to a certain extent. I had a great childhood. I was really well taken care of, and yet friends was fine with me. Like I never had like big bullying issues at school or stuff like that. And yet something was always off. And it's only after meeting other people, meeting other experiences, meeting other cultures that I realized, hold on, I'm not unworthy because I did not deliver on being the perfect CODA. I'm worthy because I exist. And if my parents, for whatever reason, they decided to raise us that way, that's not on me to blame myself for not knowing how to speak perfect sign language. And I had to get to that realization, and then a lot of self-compassion. Another tip is get on people, learn how to be compassionate to yourself, and I know self-compassion is often misunderstood as oh, poor me. No, it's not. It's actually having the courage to say, wow, you fucked up. You're so human here. What can I learn from that? And so self-compassion, curiosity, talking to other culture, other people, helps me a lot. And for my sanity, lifting weight, working out. I mean, the three basics in neuroscience, we know, like sleeping, eating healthy, and exercises. And for me, lifting weight made me so powerful that, I don't know, it helps me go back home in my body. And once I was back home, this is where I was starting to be like, wow, I'm really, really mean to myself. Would I talk to my best friend that way? Of course not. Yeah, but I don't deserve to talk to myself nicely. Well, what's so special about you that you don't deserve compassion? So I was trying to really
trick yourself back to the,
Yeah.
you know, because our mind is always trying to trick us,
Yeah. Also, one thing that started to make me feel more free is, of course, Brené Brown, The Gift of Imperfection. If this book is not coming up every time on your podcast, I'd be surprised. But reading that book also, I mean, I connect very well with how she puts things. She gives always very concrete examples, and I'm very pragmatic. So it was really easy for me to be like, oh, I get it. My imperfection, or what I think was wrong about me. Also, having the language to talk about that, you just think, you're so stupid, or you're so smart. School made me think I was super unsmart. I'm terrible at this, I'm terrible at that. And you're realizing all of that can be under the umbrella of like your imperfections. And the self-compassion is here to help me, here to help to be, and that's normal. And that's okay. It doesn't mean I'm going to sit down on my hands and be like, woohoo, just take me for why I am. I'm just honest. You don't have to be brutally honest. You can be who you are. And also, because we're social animal, have the social also awareness. But first belong to yourself. First go back home. Then you'll feel much more relaxed to be in front of people who might challenge maybe your views or anything like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel I'm rambling here.
No, and I think that's the first time we speak about shame in this podcast. So I'm very happy you brought this up, because shame, for me, shame and guilt, it's two different facets from the same, I think I would say, root. But personally, I struggled a lot with guilt. And until I discovered that guilt, it's one of the emotions that has zero interest, that that is useless, because you cannot act upon what is making you guilty. It doesn't make you, you don't have self-love within it. So it's just wasting your energy on something and then not doing anything about it. And I would feel that shame, it's even more internal, you know, like it's it consumes you from the inside. So I'm very impressed by how, and I'm sure it took you a lot of time and a lot of work to get there, but how you first saw it and then try to dig deeper and transform it into a power. But then here my question would be, you know, Jess, we live in a world that praises perfection. So it's even more difficult for us to, once we see our imperfections, to accept our imperfections. So how was this for you? How do you keep yourself sane in a world that is always praising perfection?
Yeah, I will answer the question, and I want to challenge you as well on guilt is useless. I think it's actually a very useful social compass. It's maybe over guilting and using guilt as a way to beat yourself up. But I love the way Brené Brown puts it. Guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. So right away, I was born bad CODA. Boom, that's who I am. That's my identity. I'm a terrible person. I did something bad. Oh, my sign language are not really great right now. Or I did something that disappointed my parents. You could use that guilt as a way to realize I can change that. That could be an indicator of, if you don't beat yourself up, that could be a great tool, actually, guilt. That's why you need the compassion, though, with it. So I wanted to challenge you a little bit on that idea of guilt is useless in itself. I hope you don't mind. No? And on the shame, can you rephrase your question in one sentence?
How do
I
you
lost
keep
it.
yourself sane in a world that praises perfection? Sorry.
Yeah, I have few pillars. And I think this is very similar. I was very lucky to find an amazing person to fall in love with, and that they in love with me. So my husband, my partner, is a huge pillar in, if I continuing to use the home analogy, if I leave my home and betray my values, betray myself by saying something, doing something that is not aligned with my own integrity, I can turn to him and express that in a safe environment, and he won't try to fix me. He won't try to give me advice. He would just give me a hug and say, what can I do to help you? So that's, for me, that's really helpful. So finding a trust, an ally, someone you can really sit down and explore safely. Every time you feel something you've done something that, or that the world is trying to remind you, no, be perfect. Have your hair like this. Look a certain way. For me, that's one thing. I would say the self-compassion is one of the amazing antidote. So really get to understand self-compassion and practice. I want to say embodied self-compassion, like really feeling it in your bones that your humanity is what makes you powerful, not weak. And having a bit of a critical eye on the world, knowing that it's like, that's what the world wants. Like, and there's little things as well. Like, I love to say, I'm getting gray hair. Love it. All of my friends are like, no, I'm trying to dye my hair and stuff. And I'm not criticizing on anything like that, but I am focusing on, I love aging. I understand the body has flawed and it's hard sometimes. My back hurts right now. I didn't sleep very well last night. But working with my body and embracing this idea of aging is, for me, also what keeps me sane, to stay very, it's not happy, it's not optimistic, I don't know what's the word, excited about aging, which really goes against often the narrative, and seeing people's reaction is very interesting. Is there anything else that keeps me sane?
It's already a lot.
Besides, yeah, it's already, besides the basics as well, like I'm just going to go back to this idea of like exercising, sleeping, like, first of all, like really eating well. I mean, that sounds very maybe basics, but we need that for our brain. Because if you are always in a fog, it's gonna get much easier to catch you in a fog by somebody you don't really see clearly what they're trying to do. If you are clear within yourself, you can see that person is saying something absolutely not okay. And then you can decide, first of all, you'll be able to see clearly how am I being impacted. And then you can decide, do I want to act on this? Do I want to say something? Do I want to stay silent? Is it a time when I need to maybe more protect myself? Is it a time I need to say something? Do I need to tell my neighbor that comment was not okay? But until you're not seeing clearly what's happening around you because you're not clear within yourself, it's going to be really, really hard to protect yourself against the world. Because you're going to be in reactions versus being much more proactive. That's why I keep saying, like, go back home to yourself and find a way to make sense of what that means for you. What does that mean for you, Zayad, to go back home to yourself?
Connect with my inner voice and my inner divine, which is very difficult, I think, in nowadays, because life takes us in all directions. Responsibilities, externalities, a bombing of information, of news, of things to do, of shoulds. And I think a way for me to reconnect with myself is my morning routine. For example, I have a very not strict, but I'm committed to my morning routine. This podcast, talking with people, trying to exchange and share and this kind of stuff. I think being at service also is something that is important for me, and always try to do things that are the closest possible to who I am, because we cannot only do this because there are things that we should do in life, but try to ask myself the question, at least, do I want to do it? To do what would this bring me and the world around me and the people that I love? So yeah, this kind of stuff. But
no, that's a great answer. That reminds me, like, spirituality is something I'm currently working on. That's the part missing I feel right now in one of my pillars in life. So I love that you mentioned spirituality, and I wanted to say, yeah, community or helping others, because it's one thing to get back home, but don't sit on the couch too long because otherwise you're gonna feel isolated. So helping others, I know it's really, really good for people as well, and helping for their brain, and to remind you, we're not here to get each other's. I think people are deeply, deeply kind, but we are so, so scared, and that it turns us into, like, we're just acting out of fear versus acting out of kindness. So I do think that sometimes getting out there and helping others can be really great. On a very superficial level, TV show bloopers makes me laugh. And I think laughter for me is a great also way to stay sane. British TV shows. I love it, especially Taskmaster. I don't know if you know Taskmaster. Oh my God, this is absolutely fantastic, and I'm obsessed with it.
interesting. Jess,
Yes.
did you have to lose to arrive to the Jess that you are today? What did you have to let go of?
I was a bad CODA, and I went a bit further. I embraced it as something that it's an experience I can share. I'm procrastinating about it, so I'm still working through this, but I want to write a book about being a bad CODA and how I'm probably not the only one who has this experience where you felt you are supposed to live up to certain expectations that you just really are honestly probably put on yourself, and giving yourself love. So for me, it would be a bit of a love letter of, like, hey, for the longest time you thought that, and it's like putting down the backpack that's been hurting your back for so long and your heart, and then unpacking it and say, hey, look at this, guys. It's actually great. There's a lot of information in there. Because I get to be so much more empathetic and understand other people's opinions better thanks to this experience. So there's a lot of, I think, what we often need to let go is often just data, just information about, oh, there's a treasure trove there in all of the things I thought I was not perfect about.
I think transforming. I think in fact, the reality is still the same, but it's the perception that you have of it that is changing. And it's very difficult to change perception. And it needs a lot of detachment from the problem itself initially to be able to do it. So, wow. How did you manage to detach from the negative story?
I'm noticing you keep talking in the past. I am not detached. I am becoming. I am embracing more than detaching. I am integrating the complexity of being human more and more. So I feel more and more whole. I don't think there's ever going to be a there. So I think it's also another thing that we need to accept. Like, it's not that it's I'm leaving from here and I'm going to arrive in here, like in the show The Good Place, you know. No, I think it's accepting that it's an ongoing process. It's accepting, like, one thing that it was really, for example, really challenging for me to accept is the baseline is life is hard. And for me, I was always battling this idea of like, life should be nice and every hardship is not normal. And so when I try to flip that around and change my expectations of like, we are flawed because we are human, therefore we're flawed. We are weak and we are wise. I am ugly and beautiful. I am imperfect and perfect at the same time, depending on the context, depending for whom. And so if I can embrace the complexity and the
Duality.
contrast, duality, contrast, paradox. And if I say, oh, there's a storm in a beautiful sky on the way all the time, some days I'm going to be able to stay more looking at the view of the beautiful sky. Some days, because my capacity might be lower, I'll be right in a storm, but it's all going to be from the same climate, the same weather. I will always be navigating that. It's not a destination. So I think I don't want to use the word discipline because I hate discipline. but I do think for what helps me is on this ongoing thing is conversations like this, is continuing to explore. Curiosity is really a big driver for me. What I think can keep people going is clarify your value and trying to find a way to really live them. Therefore, you can be in your own integrity. And that's how it's going to feel like. You can have a breath at the end of the day. You can have the most shittiest day ever. If you are staying as much as possible in your own integrity, you're still going to be able to sleep better. You're still going to be able to live better. And be the person you want to be. Because I do think if we're all doing this, the world will be a better place. People will be less afraid to give a hand to somebody else. Did I answer your question? You're letting me ramble too long.
It's the question is a trigger for me to get out of you what you have inside of you. So I don't care about the answer. It's the flow of conversation. Oh, to be honest, I think it's the flow of conversation that is the most important. It's how we evolved. We evolved as a conversation within this framework. So whatever you say is more than a great answer. But
Yeah,
now,
I'm sure it was brilliant then.
I have a challenge for you. Now you're gonna put your leadership coach hat on the side. You're gonna put on the side everything you prepared or throughout your life to get where you are here, and I'm gonna really talk to the deepest part of Jess, the most vulnerable one, and I will ask her this question: what is the one thing that no one knows about you, or very few people know about you, and that you are willing to share with us now?
The belief that I am a misunderstood genius clown. I think I'm hilarious. And and I don't dare to say that to people because all of my jokes always fall flat. And I've decided that's not because I was not funny, but that's just because I'm probably a misunderstood genius. So that's a running inner joke that I'm having constantly in myself, that I don't think I've told anybody except my husband, and it's a kind of inside joke. So now it's a worldwide inner joke. But just this idea of like, I take myself so seriously that when I make jokes, sometimes it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. My brain works a certain way, and it's one of the things I was trying to embrace and say, I'm probably a misunderstood genius clown.
Yeah, probably, and I'm getting more and more to experience, as you said it, contrast, duality, and there is a way that we want things to be, and this way is a way that was created by I don't know whom, like, and then we impose it on everyone. But there are a lot of flavors, and this is what makes the diversity of our humanity. Which makes our in like value, and we tend, and me first, to go to comply with the main narrative, and then whatever we feel or see something outside of that, we question ourselves, we doubt ourselves, we compare ourselves, and I really love from our conversation today, I think what I take for me, what I take uh, out of it is mainly also that, and I have this pattern in me, is like, it's not about the destination, because the destination might never arrive. It's about the process, it's about embracing every step of the way, our imperfections. And at the end of the day, it's a spiral, like you find yourself again and again in some similar situation, and you feel that you are stuck in them, but in fact you are evolving, but you are living the same situation differently. And this is what makes life interesting at the end of the day.
I just had an image when you shared that. You said no destination. I think we are already there, and we keep convincing ourselves that we are not, that we need to go somewhere else. And I think that's maybe why, it feels maybe confusing, or we're trying now. They tell me to be perfect, so I'm going to try to deroot myself, take one route and try to go over there. And you're already there. If you accept yourself the way you are, you will feel at home in yourself, and no matter what happens, you'll be able to face the challenges that life throws at you. And so I think if maybe we flip that and say, I am already here, I'm already there, the destination, I'm already there, what are you doing with it? I wonder if that's the question.
I love it. We're already at the end of this.
Yeah, it was fun.
What are you gonna do about that? So, Jess, I wanted to really thank you for this great conversation. Very raw, very deep, very authentic. Thank you so much. I really felt you've shared the part of of you, who you are, and
Thank you.
in a very human and very, like, because now with AI is everywhere, like your question is very human. So you were very human in this uh,
Thank
podcast,
you
Jen.
very much.
About shame, and this is the first time we speak about it. We spoke about shame of not being a perfect daughter, of not speaking the language of death, and I think this is an interesting, story to share, because not everyone will experiment it or can experiment it. So thank you for that. We also saw with you how from this shame or imperfection transformed it into a power, but it's not a destination again. So it's shame, imperfection, power, imperfection, power, imperfection, power, and it's all about embracing who you are in every step of the way, and accepting, being aware, and then accepting who you are, and then moving forward, and just being happy for existing, and not for probably doing or whatsoever. So just thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you.
It was an honor to be here. It was so fun. I love your questions.
Great. And on that, please, guys, watch us, subscribe, like, share. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and we have also an Instagram, Imperfect Podcast. So please be many, because we need our support to become bigger and bigger and bigger, and reach more and more people. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jess. Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you, Ziad. Thank you, everyone.